For 46 years, I have been a food sourcer. Chefs at Michelin-starred restaurants have my number saved under favorites. But to my family, I am just the delivery woman. The one they send to the service entrance because my truck smells like a slaughterhouse. 3 days before Thanksgiving, I stood outside their kitchen door and heard my grandson tell his future father-in-law that I am not quite all there anymore, but I like to feel useful. They were planning to take credit for the $8,000 meal I was about to give them for free, so I gave that meal to people who actually deserved it. And I sent my family exactly what they had paid for. Before I tell you what happened next, I need your help. Drop your name and location below. I feature subscribers as characters in every story. And subscribe so you don't miss out. My name is Nina Harwell. I am 71 years old. Some people call what I do foraging. Others call it logistics. I call it knowing where the best things come from and how to get them to the right tables. My hands know the weight of a heritage turkey before I lift it. My nose can tell the difference between a truffle dug yesterday and one dug last week. I can look at a side of beef and tell you which farm it came from, what the animal ate, and whether Theringer cared about his work. This is not a hobby. This is 46 years of building relationships with farmers who refuse to sell to anyone else. This is knowing that when a 3-star Michelin chef calls me at 3 in the morning, I can deliver what he needs before the sun comes up. 2 years ago, my phone rang at 3:15 a.m. I was already awake, the way you are when you have been doing this work long enough that your body knows when someone needs you. Thomas Keller's voice came through, tense and apologetic. Nina, I know this is incredibly last minute, but I have a VIP dinner tomorrow night at the French Laundry, and my lamb supplier just canceled on me, equipment failure, entire shipment lost. I was already opening my laptop, pulling up my contacts list. How many do you need? 12 racks, highest grade New Zealand lamb. It has to be perfect. I looked at the clock, did the math in me head. New Zealand was 20 hours ahead. It was almost midnight there, but I knew someone who would answer. Give me 18 hours. Nina, if you can pull this off, you will save my entire event. I made the first call to James McAllister, a sheep farmer in Canterbury I had been working with for 15 years. I had helped him break into the American market back when he was just starting out, had vouched for his quality with my reputation. He owed me, and he knew it. James, I said when he answered, his voice thick with sleep, I need 12 racks, your best, and I need them on a plane to San Francisco in 6 hours. There was a pause, then a low whistle. That is a tall order, Nina. I know, but it is for Thomas Keller. Another pause? For Thomas Keller, I can make it happen. The second call was to an expedited shipping company that specialized in temperature-controlled air freight. I had used them before for a caviar emergency in New York, knew exactly who to ask for. The third call was to a customs broker I had worked with for 20 years, someone who knew how to push the right paperwork through at 4 in the morning. 18 hours later, Thomas Keller called me back. His voice was warm, almost emotional. Nina, the lamb just arrived. Absolutely perfect. You are the best in the business. I do not know how you do it. I do it by caring about the work, he sighed. I tell you this story not to brag. I tell you this story so you understand who I am. I am not someone's confused grandmother who likes to feel useful. I am a professional with a network built over decades, with a reputation that opens doors most people do not even know exist. I have another supplier, Antonia Rossi in Umbria, who sends me truffles 3 times a year. We have been working together for 40 years. He calls me at odd hours because of the time difference, his English broken but his passion for the work absolute. Nina, he said last October, his voice crackling over the international line, I have found something special, a white truffle, 200 grams. The aroma is like nothing I have smelled in 10 years. I closed my eyes, wished I could smell it through the phone. "Antonio, you know I trust you." He laughed, that deep Italian laugh. "This is why we work together. Nina, you have the nose of a truffle dog, even from 8,000 kilometers away." I sold that truffle to a restaurant in Chicago for $4,000. The chef called me afterward, said it was the best ingredient he had worked with in his entire career. This is what I do. This is who I am. 46 years of this work. 46 years of building trust, of delivering quality, of knowing that when someone calls me, I will not let them down. But to my family, I am just Nina, the woman who shows up in muddy boots, the woman whose truck smells like soil and cold storage, the woman they send to the service entrance. I have thought about this a lot over the years, tried to pinpoint when it changed. When I stopped being family and started being a resource. For 46 years, I have loved this work, have felt pride in every successful delivery, every satisfied chef, every farmer who trusts me with their best products. My hands remember the weight of a perfect turkey, the texture of fresh truffle, the cold of oyster shells straight from the bay. I remember my first client, a small French restaurant in San Francisco. I was 25 years old and terrified, but I delivered what I promised, and they kept calling back. I am not just a delivery woman. I am a specialist, a professional, someone who has earned respect in an industry that does not give it easily. My daughter-in-law, Beatrice, married my son David 40 years ago. I remember the wedding like it was yesterday, not because it was grand, but because of what I made for it. I spent 3 days baking a 3-tier wedding cake from scratch, Italian cream with fresh raspberries that I had sourced from a small farm in Oregon, the kind of raspberries that cost $8 a pint because they are picked at dawn and taste like summer. I made the buttercream by hand, whisked it until my arm ached. I assembled the tiers in my kitchenette, 2 a.m, piping delicate roses around each layer. When Beatrice saw it on her wedding day, she cried. Real tears. The kind that come from genuine emotion, not the calculated tears she uses now to manipulate mice on. She took my hands in hers, squeezed them tight. "Mom," she said, and her voice was shaking, "this is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. Thank you so much. I cannot believe you did this for us." She called me Mom that day. She meant it. I remember thinking, this is my family now. This woman will be part of my life forever. I was happy about that. Somewhere between that wedding and now, something changed. The gratitude disappeared. The respect vanished. I became useful instead of loved. I became a resource instead of family. 10 years ago, 2 weeks before Christmas, Beatrice called me. Her voice was bright, excited. "Nina, we are hosting a very important dinner party on Christmas Eve. David's boss and his wife are coming, and several potential clients. I need to impress them. I need a prime rib, the absolute best you can find, for 20 guests. I knew what that meant. I drove 4 hours north to a ranch in Sonoma County where they raise Wagyu Angus crossbreeds, cattle that live on open pasture and eat grass and live good lives before they end. I walked through the aging room with the rancher, looked at sides of beef hanging in temperature-controlled darkness. "This one," he said, pointing to a massive prime rib, 45 days dry-aged, 18 pounds. "This is as good as it gets." I ran my hand along the dark crust that forms during aging, felt the firmness of the meat beneath. "How much?" $800. "I will take it." On Christmas Eve, I delivered it to Beatrice's house. I parked around back, carried the prime rib through the service entrance into the kitchen. Through the doorway, I could hear Beatrice in the dining room, talking to her guests in that bright, charming voice. "Oh, I have such an eye for quality meat," she was saying. "You really have to know what to look for, where to source from. It is all about the relationships you build." Her guests murmured appreciation. I stood in the kitchen, still holding the empty cooler. Beatrice came in, saw me, waved her hand dismissively. "Just leave it on the counter, Nina. Thank you." She went back to her guests. I washed dishes in her sink for 20 minutes. Nobody came to say thank you. Nobody asked where I had driven, what it had cost, how I had found it. After the holidays, I sent Beatrice an invoice. $800 for the prime rib, plus my standard sourcing fee. She texted back 2 weeks later, "We'll pay you after tax refund comes in. Things are tight right now." The tax refund never came. The payment never came. That invoice is still in my filing cabinet in a folder labeled Beatrice Unpaid. 8 years ago, my grandson Derek graduated from college. Beatrice called me 6 weeks before the graduation party. "Nina, we are throwing Derek a celebration, all his friends, about 50 people. I need you to handle the food. Money is no object. We want it to be special." I spent 2 weeks coordinating. Artisan cheeses from Vermont. Charcuterie from a small producer in North Carolina. Fresh seafood from Maine. Sushi-grade tuna I had flown in from Boston. $3,000 wholesale. On the day of the party, I arrived dearly to set up the buffet. Derek gave a speech to his 50 friends, stood on the patio with a glass of champagne. "I just want to thank everyone for being here," he said, his voice confident and smooth, "and I especially want to thank my family for always supporting me, for always being there when I needed them." Everyone applauded. I was in the kitchen, arranging the seafood on ice. Nobody mentioned my name. After the party, I sent the invoice. $3,200. Beatrice called me, her voice tight with irritation. "Nina, that seems very expensive. I will pay you after we get through this month. Things are tight right now." That was 8 years ago. The invoice is still unpaid. I opened my filing cabinet last weekend, counted them all. Every party, every holiday, every celebration where I provided food and received nothing but vague promises. The folder is thick, 23 years of invoices, some of them faded with age. I spread them across my kitchen table and added them up on my calculator. $42,347. The oldest invoice is from 2001, Beatrice's 35th birthday party, 200 people, champagne and oysters, and imported cheeses. At the bottom of that invoice, in my own handwriting from 23 years ago, I had written a note. Beatrice said we'll pay after tax refund. The refund never came. But I want you to understand something important about Derek, because the little boy I knew was not always the man who would steal credit from his grandmother. 26 years ago, when Derek was 8 years old, he begged to come with me on a sourcing trip. It was early November, the same time of year as now, and I was going to Harold Pemberton's farm to select turkeys for Thanksgiving. Derek sat in the passenger seat of my truck, his legs too short to reach the floor, his eyes wide with excitement. We drove through the valley as the sun came up, burning off the morning fog. "Grandma," he said, his voice full of wonder, "do you do this every day?" "Not every day, but often enough." "What is your favorite part?" I thought about it, hands steady on the wheel. "The moment when I find exactly what I am looking for, when I know it is perfect, and the chef will be happy." When we arrived at Harold's farm, Derek's mouth fell open. The heritage turkeys were massive, bronze feathers gleaming in the morning light, some of them weighing 30 pounds or more. "Grandma," he whispered, grabbing my hand, "they are so big, how do you know which one to pick?" I knelt down next to him in the barn, showed him how to observe the birds. "You look at their feathers first, see how they shine, that means they are healthy. Then you watch how they move. A good bird walks with confidence. And you look at their eyes, clear and bright." Derek studied each bird with serious concentration, his little face intent. "That one," he said, pointing to a large tom, "that one has the best feathers." He was right. I picked that bird and 2 others like it. As we loaded them into the truck, Derek looked up at me with those brown eyes that were still innocent, still full of trust. "Grandma, I want to learn everything you know. I want to be just like you when I grow up." I ruffled his hair, believed him. Someday you will understand all of this, I said. Someday you will know what it means to do work you can be proud of. I think about that day a lot now. I think about the 8-year-old boy who wanted to learn, who held my hand in the barn, who looked at those turkeys with genuine curiosity. That boy is gone. In his place is a 34-year-old man who lives in his father's guest house, who drives a car his father pays for, who tells investors he manages the family portfolio when the portfolio is my pension fund and he manages nothing. The boy who wanted to learn became the man who steals credit. 3 days before Thanksgiving this year, my phone rang at 10 in the morning. Beatrice's voice came through, higher than usual, vibrating with excitement. "Nina," she said, barely pausing for breath, "Derek is bringing someone very special to Thanksgiving dinner. Her name is Caroline, and her father is Thomas Sterling. He is a major shareholder in Pacific Foods Distribution. Do you understand what this means?" I understood what it meant to her. An opportunity to impress someone wealthy. "What do you need, Beatrice?" "I need the full spread. The absolute best of everything. 2 heritage turkeys, not 1, but 2. I want truffle butter, the real French kind, and that vintage Bordeaux you sourced for the Hendersons. Do you remember that dinner?" I remembered. The Hendersons had paid me. "I need 6 bottles of that wine," Beatrice continued, "and oysters, at least 5 dozen, and foie gras, and those heirloom vegetables you get from that farm." I was already opening my laptop, pulling up my supplier list, my fingers moving across the keyboard while she talked. 2 heritage turkeys at $300 each from Harold, $600. 5 dozen oysters from Washington State, $240. 6 bottles of 1996 Chateau Margaux, $8,400, assuming I could even find them. Black truffle butter from Perigord, $300. Foie gras from Hudson Valley, $420. Heirloom vegetables from 3 different small farms, $240. The numbers added up in my head faster than the calculator could process them. "How much will this cost?" I asked, already knowing she would not pay. Beatrice's voice shifted, became lighter, more careless. "Oh, whatever it costs, this is important." And Nina, there was a pause, the kind of pause that always comes before a lie. "I will pay you back after the holidays. Things are just tight right now with the house renovations." I sat at my kitchen table, looked at the calculator display. $8,400. I opened the filing cabinet, pulled out the folder labeled Beatrice Unpaid, spread the invoices across the table next to my laptop. 23 years. $42,347. And now she wanted $8,400 more. I should have said no. I should have laughed and hung up the phone and gone back to my greenhouse where the winter vegetables were waiting, where the work was honest and the people were grateful. But I did not. I said, "Yes, Beatrice, I will take care of it." Like I always do. Because somewhere deep in my tired heart, underneath all the disappointment and the unpaid invoices and the service entrances, I still believed that maybe this time would be different. Maybe this time they would see me. Maybe this time they would say thank you. The next morning I woke at 5:30, made coffee in the dark kitchen, and drove north to Harold Pemberton's farm. The sun was just beginning to rise, burning off the thick fog that settles over the valley every November, turning the hills into gray shadows. Harold's farm sits at the end of a gravel road, surrounded by oak trees that have been there longer than either of us. I have been coming here for 30 years. Harold knows me by the sound of my truck. He was already in the barn when I arrived, doing what he has done every morning for 50 years, checking on his birds, making sure they have clean water and good feed. "Nina," he called out when he heard my door close, right on time as always. Harold is 76 years old. His shins gnarled from decades of work, his face lined from sun and wind and honest labor. He raises heritage bourbon red turkeys, birds that take 18 months to mature, birds that most farmers will not bother with because the profit margin is too small and the work is too hard. But Harold does it because he cares about the quality, because he believes that food should be raised with respect. He sells his turkeys for $300 each, and he does not sell to just anyone. He sells to me because I have never lied to him about where his birds are going, because I pay him on time every single time, because I respect the work the way he does. We walked through the barn together, our boots crunching on the fresh straw he had laid down that morning. The turkeys watched us with curious eyes, some of them making low gobbling sounds. "I need 2 of your best, Harold," I said, "for Thanksgiving." He nodded, moved slowly between the birds, studying them the way I study cuts of beef or wheels of cheese. "This one here," he said, pointing to a massive tom with bronze feathers that gleamed like polished copper in the dim barn light. "He is the king of the flock, 34 pounds, lived a good life, ate well, moved freely." I ran my hand along the bird's back, felt the solid muscle underneath the feathers, the weight of a life that had been lived fully. The feathers were smooth and clean, the eyes bright and alert. "He is perfect." "And this one," Harold said, moving to a slightly smaller bird, 32 pounds, strong and healthy. I examined the second turkey with the same care, looking at the breast development, the leg strength, the overall condition. "Both of them are beautiful, Harold. You have done excellent work." He smiled, the kind of smile that comes from genuine pride in craftsmanship. "They will be honored," I said, the promise I always make. Harold helped me carry both turkeys to my truck, their weight familiar in my arms. We placed them carefully in their refrigerated compartment, laying them on clean white cloth. 64 pounds of bird, 2 lives that had ended so that people could celebrate. Harold closed the truck door, wiped his hands on his work pants. "You still have the touch, Nina," he said, his voice warm with respect. "Not many people left in this world who understand what we do, who care about quality the way you and I do." "I know, Harold, and I am grateful to work with you." On the drive back home, I thought about those turkeys, about Harold's dedication to raising them right, about the 18 months each bird had lived. I thought about the Thanksgiving table where they would be served, about Beatrice taking credit for sourcing them, about Derek impressing his future father-in-law with food I had found. My hands gripped the steering wheel tighter, but I was not angry yet. Not yet. I stopped at the house on my way home, not to deliver the turkeys, but to confirm the timing with Beatrice, to make sure everything was coordinated. I parked around back, the way I always do. The front circular driveway is for guests, for people who matter. I am not a guest. I am the supply chain, someone who delivers and disappears. The kitchen door was propped opento, let in the cool November air. I could hear voices coming from the living room, male voices, laughter, the sound of people enjoying themselves. I should have walked in, should have announced myself, should have acted like family instead of a vendor. Instead, I stopped just outside the door, my hand on the frame. Derek's voice came first, loud and confident. The voice of someone who has never been questioned about anything in his entire life. "The food for Thursday is completely handled," he was saying. "I sourced everything personally from my network of premium suppliers." A different voice responded, older, measured, formal. "Impressive," the man said. "Heritage turkeys are extremely difficult to source this time of year. Most farms there completely sold out by September." My hand tightened on the door frame, the wood cool and rough under my palm. Derek laughed, easy and careless. "You have to know the right people," he said. "I have relationships with the best farms in Northern California, connections I have built over years." My fingernails dug into the wood. Years. He has never built anything except debt and excuses. "Where do you source from specifically?" the man asked. "Oh, Derek said, his voice as smooth as oil, small family farms, heritage breeds, sustainable practices, all the things that matter for quality." The doorframe creaked slightly under my grip. "Heritage turkeys are quite expensive," the man continued. "Worth every penny when you have the right supplier relationships." "My grandmother helps with deliveries sometimes," Derek added. his voice shifting to something that sounded almost pitiful. My heart began to beat faster. She is getting older, not quite all there anymore, you know how it is, but she likes to feel useful, likes to think she is contributing. The wood splintered slightly under my thumbnail. Beatrice's voice cut through, high and bright and charming. Nina means well, she said, using the voice she reserves for impressing strangers. But she does not really understand how things work at this level. The logistics, the quality standards. We let her bring the food because it makes her feel included, like she is part of something. Mr. Sterling spoke again, his voice kind. That is very generous of you, family is important. Derek's voice came back, and this is when my blood turned cold. We are having her use the service entrance when she delivers, he said. The truck smells like a slaughterhouse. We cannot have that in the driveway when your family arrives for dinner, you understand. They laughed. All three of them. Beatrice's laugh was loudest, brightest, most delighted. I stepped back from the door. My boots made no sound on the gravel. I walked to my truck with measured steps, opened the refrigerated compartment, and looked at the 2 turkeys lying there on white cloth. 64 pounds of bird. $600 I had paid Harold this morning, cash from my own pocket. For people who thought I was not all there anymore. For people who thought I liked to feel useful. For a grandson who was stealing my work, my reputation, my 46 years of building relationships and claiming it as his own. I closed the compartment carefully, quietly, got into the truck, turned the key, drove home. I did not cry. I did not scream. I sat in my kitchen with the door closed and looked at the order sheet I had prepared earlier that morning. 2 heritage turkeys from Harold Pemberton, $600. 5 dozen oysters from Taylor Shellfish in Washington State, $240. 6 bottles of 1996 Chateau Margaux that I would have to call in 3 different favors to acquire, $8,400. Black truffle butter from Perigord that my contact in Paris was holding for me, $300. Foie gras from Hudson Valley that required special ordering, $420. Heirloom vegetables from 3 different organic farms, $240. Total wholesale cost before my sourcing fees, $8,400. Amount I would be reimbursed, 0. Amount of gratitude I would receive, 0. Amount of credit I would get, 0. I picked up my phone, called Marcus Chen. Marcus and I have been partners in the restaurant supply business for 15 years, ever since we met at A Food Expo in San Francisco, and discovered we shared the same philosophy about sourcing, about quality, about treating farmers and chefs with equal respect. We built something together, something honest and real. The phone rang twice before he answered. Nina, his voice was warm. What do you need? I told him everything. The $8,000 order, the overheard conversation outside the kitchen door, the service entrance, the dementia joke, the 23 years of unpaid invoices sitting in my filing cabinet, Derek claiming my work as his own. When I finished, there was silence on the line for a long moment. Then Marcus spoke, and I could hear something new in his voice, something like approval mixed with curiosity. What do you want to do? I want to give this food to people who will appreciate it, people who will be grateful, people who will remember. Hope's Table, he said immediately. Hope's Table, I repeated, testing the words. They are doing a Thanksgiving meal for 400 people downtown, Marcus continued. They are always underfunded. They usually end up serving canned turkey and instant mashed potatoes because that is all they can afford. Can they handle heritage turkey? Marcus laughed, a sound of pure delight. Nina, I will cook it myself if I have to. I will take vacation days. This is the best idea you have ever had. I smiled for the first time in 2 days. And for my family? What is their actual budget? Marcus asked. They have never paid me for anything, I said, not in 23 years. Then give them what, $0 buys? I spent the next 2 days making phone calls, redirecting every single item on Beatrice's list to people and organizations that would honor the food. I called Harold first, told him where his turkeys were really going. "Hope's Table," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "Nina, those folks deserve a proper Thanksgiving. This is the best use of my birds I can imagine. Thank you for telling me." The 6 oysters went to a culinary training program that teaches cooking skills to homeless veterans, giving them a trade they can use to rebuild their lives. The 6 bottles of 1996 Chateau Margaux, which took me 6 phone calls and 3 called-in favors to acquire, went to a charity auction benefiting children's hospitals. The truffle butter, the foie gras, the heirloom vegetables, all of it went to people and organizations that would be grateful, that would remember, that would honor what they were given. Then I made a different order. I drove to a discount warehouse store on the edge of town, the kind of place where restaurants buy bulk supplies to cut costs. I pushed an industrial-sized shopping cart through fluorescent-lit aisles. 40 pounds of frozen chicken nuggets in a bag with a cheerful cartoon chicken on the front. $14.99. 8 cans of store-brand corn. $6. 5 boxes of instant mashed potatoes. $8.75. 1 jar of turkey gravy, the kind that is mostly cornstarch and food coloring and salt. $3.99. A bag of frozen dinner rolls. $4. Pre-made pumpkin pie from the bakery section that smelled like chemicals, $9.59. The cashier, a tired woman in her 50s, looked at my cart and then at me. "Big Thanksgiving?" she asked, scanning the items. "Something like that," I said. The total came to $47.32. I paid in cash, loaded everything into my truck next to the refrigerated compartment where Heritage turkeys should have been. That night, I sat at my kitchen table and created an invoice. At the top, current order, $47.32. Below that, in a separate section with its own header, outstanding balance 23 years. I listed every unpaid invoice, every party, every holiday, every celebration. The dates, the amounts, Beatrice's promises. 2001, birthday party, $347, promise will pay after-tax refund. 2005, anniversary dinner, $892, promise will pay next month. 2010, Derek's graduation, $3, $200, promise will pay when bonus comes. The list went on for 2 pages. At the bottom, total outstanding, $42, $347. I printed it, put it in a manila envelope, sealed it. Then I called a delivery service. Not the one I usually use for my business, but a general courier company with unmarked vans. "I need a delivery made on Thanksgiving Day," I said, at exactly 6 o'clock in the evening, not a minute earlier or later. The dispatcher took down the address. "This will be an extra charge for holiday delivery," she warned. "I do not care about the cost," I said, 6 o'clock exactly. Thanksgiving morning, I woke at 3:30. The house was dark and silent, the kind of quiet that exists only in the hours before dawn. I dressed in layers, knowing the industrial kitchen at Hope's Table would be warm once the oven started running. I loaded my truck with the 2 Heritage turkeys, still in their refrigerated compartment, still resting on white cloth. I drove through empty streets to the shelter downtown, a converted warehouse that serves meals every day to people who have nothing. Marcus was already there, his car the only other vehicle in the parking lot. The lights were on in the kitchen. When I walked in carrying the first turkey, Marcus was standing at the stainless steel prep table wearing his chef's coat, the good one he wears for special occasions, his professional knife roll spread out in front of him. He looked up and smiled. "This is going to be the best Thanksgiving either of us has ever had," he said. We roasted the turkeys in the industrial ovens, massive machines that could handle 20 pans a tance. We rubbed them with softened butter mixed with fresh sage, thyme, rosemary, and lemon zest. The smell began to fill the building around 5 in the morning, rich and warm and honest, the smell of food being treated with respect. By 6 a.m., volunteers started arriving to help with the rest of the meal. By 7 a.m., more people came, bringing donations of side dishes, rolls, cranberry sauce. By 9 a.m., the turkeys were golden brown, the skin crispy and perfect, the meat falling off the bone. Marcus checked the internal temperature with his chef's thermometer, nodded with satisfaction. 165 degrees, he said. These are the most beautiful birds I have ever cooked. By 11 a.m., we were setting up the serving line, arranging everything so people could move through efficiently. At noon, the doors opened. 400 people came through those doors over the next 3 hours. Families with small children whose eyes went wide at the sight of real turkey, whose parents' faces showed relief at a meal they had not had to worry about paying for. Veterans in wheelchairs, men and women wearing jackets with faded military patches, medals pinned to their chests, people who had served their country and ended up with nothing. One man, maybe 60 years old, stopped at the serving line where I was standing. "Ma'am," he said, his voice formal and military precise. "This reminds me of home, of Thanksgiving with my family 40 years ago. Thank you." "You are welcome," I said, handing him a plate piled high. Elderly couples who moved slowly, who held hands as they walked, who had lost everything except each other. A woman who looked to be in her 70s, her coat too thin for November, her hands shaking as she held her tray. "Real turkey?" she asked, as if she could not believe it. "The best turkey you will ever have, Isaid." A little girl, maybe 10 years old, with bright eyes and braided hair, tugged on my sleeve. "Is this really real turkey?" she asked, her voice full of wonder. "Or is it the fake kind?" I knelt down to her level. "This is heritage turkey, sweetheart, raised on a farm by a man who cares about his birds. This is as real as it gets." Her smile was worth every penny. Her mother, standing behind her with tears in her eyes, mouthed the words, "Thank you." An old woman, maybe 75, came through the line last. Her coat was thin and patched, her shoes worn through at the toes, but she carried herself with dignity. When I handed her a plate, she started to cry. "I have not had real turkey in 6 years," she whispered. "This is the best meal of my life." I reached across the serving table and took her hand. Her fingers were thin and cold, but they squeezed mine with surprising strength. "This food was meant for you," I said, "and every person in this room, it was always meant for you." She nodded, unable to speak, and moved on. At 5:45 p.m., while I was helping clean up the kitchen at Hope's table, my phone started buzzing in my pocket. I ignored it. It buzzed again, and again. I pulled it out, saw the screen lighting up with calls. Beatrice. Derek. My son David, who rarely called unless his wife told him to. I put the phone back in my pocket without answering. At 6:15, Beatrice left a voicemail. I listened to it while stacking cleaned serving trays. Her voice was different from this morning, high and thin, stretched tight like a wire about to snap. "Nina, where is the food? The guests are here. Derek promised them a special dinner. Everyone is seated and waiting. Call me back immediately. This is not funny." I deleted the message and went back to work. At 6:20, Derek left a message. His voice was pure panic, mixed with rage. "Grandma, this is my career. Caroline's father could change my entire life. What are you doing? Call me back right now." I saved that message to play for Marcus later. At 6:30, Derek called again. His voice had moved past panic into fury. "Grandma, what the hell is going on? There is some delivery guy here with frozen chicken nuggets and canned corn. This is not funny. Call me right now. You are ruining everything." Marcus looked over at me, raised an eyebrow. I played the message on speaker. We laughed until we cried. At 6:35, a voice I did not recognize left a message. "Mrs. Harwell, this is Barbara Sterling, Caroline's mother. I am very confused about what is happening at this dinner, and I think you should call your family back. I deleted it. At 6:45, my son David called. His voice was tired, confused, caught in the middle of something he did not understand. Mom, what is happening? Beatrice is hysterical. Derek is freaking out. The guests look very uncomfortable. There is frozen food on the table, and everyone is just sitting here. Please call me back. I deleted that message too. At 6:50, Beatrice called again. This time she was crying, real tears, not the calculated ones she uses for manipulation. Nina, please, I do not understand. Please call me. Everyone is staring at us, please. I turned off the ringer. At exactly 7 o'clock, my phone rang with a number I did not recognize. I answered. Mrs. Harwell? A man's voice said, formal and cold. Yes, this is Nina Harwell. This is Thomas Sterling, Caroline's father. I am currently sitting in your family's dining room, and I am looking at a very interesting invoice. I set down the dish I was drying, gave Marcus a look. He nodded, understanding immediately, and took over my station. I walked outside into the November evening, the air cold and clean. Go ahead, Mr. Sterling. This invoice lists $47.32 worth of frozen chicken nuggets, canned vegetables, instant mashed potatoes, and packaged gravy, he said. Reading from the paper, it also lists, in a separate section, 23 years of unpaid invoices totaling $42,347. Your grandson told me he personally sourced a gourmet Thanksgiving meal using his professional network and industry connections. Can you explain what is happening? I can, I said, keeping my voice even and professional. My grandson has never sourced anything in his life. Mr. Sterling, he has never paid for anything either. For 23 years, I have provided food for this family's parties and celebrations. I have never been reimbursed a single dollar this year. I decided to give them exactly what they have paid for, which is nothing. There was silence on the line. Then a sound that might have been a laugh, or might have been something else. Mrs. Harwell, he said slowly, I am in the food distribution business. I know exactly what heritage turkeys cost. I know what logistics coordination requires. I know what a 1996 Chateau Margaux is worth in today's market. Your family told me you were a confused old woman who liked to feel useful by helping with small deliveries. I am 71 years old, Mr. Sterling. I am not confused, and I am very useful, just not to them. Note anymore. Another pause. I could hear voices in the background, Beatrice's voice rising in panic, Derek trying to explain something, failing. Can I ask where the actual food went? Mr. Sterling said. To Hope's Table, a shelter downtown. They served Thanksgiving dinner to 400 people today. People who were grateful, people who will remember. There was a long silence. Then Mr. Sterling spoke again, his voice different now, warmer. Mrs. Harwell, I am going to call you next week. I think Pacific Foods Distribution could use someone with your expertise and integrity. The engagement is off, by the way. I do not do business with liars, and I certainly do not marry my daughter to thieves who steal credit from their own grandmother. He hung up. I stood in the parking lot for a moment, looked up at the November sky. Then I turned off my phone and went back inside. There was still pumpkin pie to distribute, still coffee to pour, still people to serve who actually appreciated it. That night, I drove home through empty streets, my truck smelling like industrial dish soap and gratitude. At 11 page M, my phone, which E had turned back on, showed 17 missed calls and 9 voicemails. I listened to the last one, from my son David. His voice was broken in a way I had not heard since he was a child. Mom, he said, and I could hear that the woman was crying. Beatrice has locked herself in the bedroom. She will not come out. Derek will not come out of the guest house. The Sterlings left. They called Derek a fraud in front of everyone. Caroline broke up with him in the driveway. Why did you do this? I know we have not always been fair to you. I know we have taken advantage, but this is too much. How could you do this? I listened to the whole message. Then I deleted it. 3 months later, in February, I signed the paperwork for my new business. Harwell Provisions, a food sourcing company that partners with high-end restaurants and donates surplus food to shelters and community programs. Marcus is my co-founder. Harold Pemberton is our primary supplier for Heritage Poultry. Our first client was a 3-star Michelin restaurant in San Francisco. Our first donation was to Hope's Table, where we now provide food once a month. The office, a small space Marcus and I rent together, has one photograph on the wall. 8 by 10, professionally framed. 400 people at Hope's Table on Thanksgiving Day, eating heritage turkey. Some of them are smiling. Some of them are crying. All of them are grateful. Beatrice has not spoken to me since Thanksgiving. She filed for divorce from my son 2 months later, moved to Arizona with a man she met online. Apparently, the humiliation of that dinner party was too much for her marriage to survive. Derek moved to Phoenix shortly after, found work as a sales associate at a car dealership. Last I heard, he does not list Investor on his LinkedIn profile anymore. My son David calls sometimes, usually late at night when he has been drinking. I answer when I feel like it. Last week, a young chef from Portland called me. Her voice was nervous, hopeful, the voice of someone reaching out to a stranger because someone they trust gave them a name. Mrs. Harwell, she said, my name is Emma Chen. I am opening a new restaurant next month, Modern Vietnamese Fusion, and I need New Zealand lamb on very short notice. Someone told me you were the best, that if anyone could help me, it would be you. I smiled, opened my laptop. How many racks do you need, Emma? 20, she said. Highest grade, for me opening night. I know it is a lot to ask. I can get it for you in 18 hours. Her voice flooded with relief, almost broke. Thank you, Mrs. Harwell. You are saving my opening night, truly saving it. When the lamb arrived exactly on schedule and her opening night was a success, Emma called me the next day. Her gratitude was real, genuine, the kind you cannot fake, the kind that comes from someone who understands the value of good work. Thank you for believing in me, she sighed. I believe in good food and good people, I told her, and you are both. A week later, a package arrived at my office. Inside was a handwritten note on thick paper and a beautiful ceramic bowl. The note said, for someone who understands that food is more than business, it is trust. Emma, I keep that bowl on my desk. Every time I look at it, I remember why I do this work. My truck still smells like soil and cold storage. My boots are still muddy. But I do not use the service entrance anymore. When I deliver to restaurants now, I park in front, I walk through the main entrance, and chefs come out to greet me personally, to shake my hand, to thank me for my work. Last month, Thomas Sterling called me, just like he said he would. Pacific Foods Distribution wants to partner with Harwell Provisions, he said. We want to work with someone who has integrity, who understands quality, who treats this business the way it deserves to be treated. We are negotiating terms now. Good food deserves good people. I just make sure they find each other. So now I want to hear from you. If you were in my position, at what point would you have drawn the line? Would you have kept giving to family who never appreciated it, or would you have walked away sooner than I did? Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and your own dignity? And how did you make that choice? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I genuinely want to know how you would have handled this situation. And if this story resonated with you, if it made you think about the difference between being useful and being used, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Your support means everything, and it helps me keep sharing these stories. Thank you for listening, and remember, good food deserves good people.